You don't have to believe in past lives. You don't have to believe in a soul. You just need to have a different outcome.
Sometimes these are not the things that we actually want or that we
Yes.
actually need in our life to be.
You have already anchored that in your energy field. You've anchored that in your subconscious mind, and that will definitely become your reality.
You realize that people are not intentionally trying to hurt you and
Yes.
are not against you most of
Yes.
the time.
I'm actually creating something that has not been there. I did do some research to see if there's anything similar, and I didn't come across any.
These pockets of opportunities usually come through hardship and challenge.
Yes, when someone is speaking, it's either taking someone on a hypnotherapy journey or giving a guided meditation.
When I grow up, I will always have this idea of, oh, I have to prove people that I'm smart. I have to prove them that I'm beautiful because I don't believe it. All right. Welcome, Maria. Thanks a lot for being here today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Lucy.
I want to start by talking a little bit about the LifeScripting community. You founded it about 10 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 12 or
Yes.
longer.
Yes, so I did discover it about 10 years ago, but I finally created and put together the modality in 2019, which is since then I've been having people who've been trained for it. They go through different levels and different practices. They receive sessions and then they get certified to become life scripters.
So basically, LifeScripting is a modality, and you created a community around it to share your knowledge about the modality with your community.
Yes, so people end up learning how to utilize the technique of life scripting, which is learning the four major principles, which is breath, intuition, energy, and the power of words to help change the mindset of someone. So by doing all these trainings or attending group sessions and even one-to-one, we ended up having like this huge community specifically in Dubai, in UAE. And we've also had some from other countries such as India, as well as Oman, as well as in the US. So we try to also do retreats, yearly retreats, where people just come together. They either end up learning one of the courses or they end up just having a retreat experience on different topics that I would be sharing.
Amazing. Okay, so what does life scripting mean? Well, I think a lot of people, to me, as I encountered your profile and I started searching, looking, it was a new thing. It was very interesting to understand what it is. Can you share us with?
Yeah, so basically, over the years, when I was learning different forms of spiritual techniques or purification techniques, plus energy, psychology, most of them were self-studied that I was going through for my own benefit. And I realized that there are certain loopholes in different techniques which can end up lacking to gain a holistic healing or a holistic experience. So then I came up with the idea of life scripting to teach people majorly about spiritual purification, so spiritual knowledge, which has to do with the mind, body, and soul, and to use certain tools that can help them to gain to that level of self-mastery, to be more independent rather than be dependent or codependent on teachers, on techniques. So although life scripting is a technique, but it's very fluid in a sense that it allows people to utilize what would they need at a certain point in their life. For example, if certain people have a physical ailment, then they might utilize the breathing technique within, which is conscious connected breathing. If certain people are more spiritual and they want to clear certain karmic patterns that they have, things that they may have inherited from ancestors, then they might use the Akashic records, which is, again, an esoteric knowledge, and also energetic work. If some people want to shift their mindset to be more positive and to be able to gain certain manifestations for the future, then they would be using the power of words. So that is why at certain points in a person's life, they're able to utilize or combine them together. And this way they feel that they can change and they can create the life that they want.
Very interesting. What was the first time when you stumbled upon life scripting?
I would say it was around 2014 where I had just moved to Dubai and I had already learned some modalities and self-studied some. And I realized that I was giving a session, I was giving a breathwork session to a client. I was doing part-time. At the time, I was still teaching English as a second language. And I realized that I started combining certain things that I know together. And what was fascinating for me was the healing experience session lasted way shorter than it usually was. So this was in 2014, where usually it would last an hour long for a person to have a realization, to reach to a level of this heightened awareness. That happened within 30 minutes. That was the first time, and I thought I'm doing something wrong. But then I did it again on someone else. So I was being more intuitively guided. I was not following any textbook. I was not following any certain protocols. I was just feeling the guidance on what to do for a particular person on a particular area of life. And then I noticed that I'm actually creating something that has not been there. I did do some research to see if there's anything similar, and I didn't come across any. So I guess that's how life scripting came to life.
So did you coin the term life scripting?
Yes, yes, I
Oh,
did. I
okay.
did. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
That was again another experience where I wanted to know what can I call this thing that's not going to sound too too spiritual, like too
Mhm.
woo-woo, and not to
Mhm.
sound also very business corporate-y. And that's the word that came up. I trialed it with a few friends. I said, what do you think if I told you I'm giving you a life scripting session? And many of them got this positive feeling from it, like they felt empowered from the word that, oh, I'm being charge of my life. I'm probably writing things down, right? Which there is a writing process to it, but that's not the whole thing as itself. But it sounded very empowering for many.
Interesting. What do you
Mhm.
tell people who come across this and they say, well,
Mm.
there are a lot of skeptical people around.
Yeah.
So, and they say, well, I don't think this is, I don't believe this. This is woo-woo, as you said.
Mhm,
How do you
mhm,
explain to them, or do you even try
mhm,
to share that this is actually something interesting and you can explore
mm.
this further before rejecting it completely?
Yes. So I'm not a type of person who likes to sit and convince someone about something because my philosophy is that if someone's meant to experience, they will be able to stumble upon it and go through it. So I don't believe in a forceful manner or trying to debate on something. However, I would happily explain the process of things. I do understand that terminology is very important when you're speaking to someone who's skeptical. So if I'm going to start telling someone, oh, we're going to go to your soul and we're going to go to a higher self, of course they're going to be like, what is she talking about? But
Mhm.
if I end up explaining, which is the truth, telling them, look, if you have a certain issue in your life and you really want to, not let it affect you, you want to be more in charge of it, then here are the ways that we can do that. You don't have to believe in past lives. You don't have to believe in a soul. You just need to have a different outcome, right? And I believe that everyone wants that. People do want to have a different outcome. They want tangible evidence of things, right? So
Yeah.
when someone is being very skeptical, I always have to find out that, okay, what is it that's bothering you in the first place? If there is something that's bothering you, then I have the tools for you to be able to make changes without you even having deep levels of belief. And one of the evidence for that I've had I've experienced and my clients have experienced in the past 3 years is I do distance healing. Distance healing is basically when no one is online or we're not face to face and they're receiving energetic activations, which is part of life scripting. Now, this might sound incredibly woo-woo or almost impossible to believe, but what is fascinating is it's always based on a topic. So, for example, currently we're doing clearing saboteurs. So, saboteurs is part of psychological processes. So, we have different emotions, we have different thought processes that can end up sabotaging us, right? So, we are focusing on that, and we have a Telegram group for every single every beginning of the month for 7 days for different topics. And you can see that people are starting to share the changes that they're going through. Now, they don't know the full details of how I'm doing the process. They are not involved like physically in the process. They know that they're just going to receive an energetic process. Plus, they have daily activities that they need to do, which involves affirmation work, which involves listening to a certain sound frequency. So, as part of life scripting, it's about molding a new reality for someone by using certain tools, right? And this goes to show that even if you are not a believer or you don't understand how a process is, if you're getting a different outcome and a result, then there must be something that's going on that's influencing you. So that's another way that I tell people to, why don't you explore? You don't have anything to lose, and your time is not being taken away from you. So see the difference.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So I would say I'm not easily convinced either. It's not,
Mhm,
I
mhm.
don't believe everything I see or encounter,
Yes.
right? But
Mhm,
I think what I also do, and I think it helps me a lot in life, is I don't reject immediately
mhm.
anything that I encounter. I give it a chance. I give it a
There you go.
try. I think about it. I try to analyze it intellectually, emotionally. I try to see how it
Mhm,
affects me before
mhm,
making that decision, whether it's true or not true. So I
mhm,
think that it's important. And also, I think as you were talking about this, well, it's so true, right? If we think about even the simplest thing, the power of words and the power
mhm,
of speaking and writing and thinking,
mhm,
it affects our lives on daily basis. So
mhm.
can you, and I think we talked about this a little bit as well. Can you talk about the power of words,
Yeah. Well,
spoken words?
since we use language to communicate and express ourselves, whether we are verbalizing it out loud or we are mentally processing, it's part of our thought process. So our thought is mainly created through words, through language. So when I'm sitting and thinking like, oh, I don't feel good enough, I feel I'm a failure, and I believe I will not be able to make it. Now, this string of sentences that I'm saying mentally. Now, I might be aware of it if I have worked on myself to heighten my awareness, but most of the time, we know that many of us and the majority of us, we still have unconscious thought processes that are going on. And those thought processes are based on words. And for each one of us, every single word has its own definition. It has a perception, it has a connotation to it. So if I said something to myself, or I've been saying to myself that I'm not good enough, then naturally my feeling is not going to be of something of a heightened, joyful, vibrational experience. I won't be feeling well. My body will not react or look that way. I would always feel like a little bit shy. I would feel people, if they look at me, they would notice that, oh, this person has a lack of confidence, for example, or this person is hesitating or not being able to express themselves when they speak. So body language gets affected. And then as a result, the actions that the person takes will obviously give a certain outcome. And the outcome will always prove the thought, the string of thoughts, the string of words that the person has within them. So it always does go back to the thought, which is created through the words that we have. And that is why, if we are able to, I've always had people actually who tell me I don't believe in affirmations. I've said affirmations, I've done all that positive thinking, it hasn't worked. And this is where I come in with life scripting as well, which is yes, just saying a bunch of positive words is not going to change your life, because number one, the majority of the time, people don't even know what is their saboteur, what is their negative thought process, or what is their personal lie. So if I'm going to go and say, oh, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, but let's say I have a deeper thought where it says life is hell, life is unfair. If I have that core thought, no matter how many times I say I'm happy, it's going to take me years to probably overcome that. And human beings don't have the patience. Human beings are lazy most of the time, and they always want a quick outcome, right? So it's always important to first identify what is it that is holding us back, which is part of the deactivations or the clearings that we do in life scripting. Once you get that out of the way, then affirmation work becomes way easier. You have more of this ability to trust what you're saying, to believe what you're saying. And I always say this: how do you know if an affirmation has become the truth, has become your reality? It needs to be equivalent to your name. What do I mean by that? If someone asks you what your name is, you say it without any hesitation. A certain affirmation that you've been working towards, if you don't have that hesitation when you say it out loud, believing that, well, this is a fact, of course, this is who I am, this is what I am, then that means you have already anchored that in your energy field. You've anchored that in your subconscious mind, and that will definitely become your reality.
Mm-hmm. I love this. And I fully believe the idea of if I have, let's say, in my childhood, I was told that I'm not smart enough, I'm not beautiful
Mm-hmm,
enough,
mm-hmm,
or as
mm-hmm.
compared to other people,
Yes.
which I think I was a little bit. But if I had that in my childhood and I believed it that I wasn't
Mm,
smart enough, I wasn't beautiful enough, when I grow up, I will always have this idea of, oh, I have to prove people that I'm smart. I have to prove them that I'm beautiful because I don't believe it. If I
exactly.
if I have that goal, right? And then I
Yes.
will always have this back and forth. So this thought
Mm-hmm,
that was planted in my mind as I was a child or whatever, then I
mm-hmm,
grew up with this thought and it kind of sprouted into something personality. And I don't even see what's underneath. I don't even remember who said this
mm.
or
Yeah,
whether this happened or not, but it affects my life decisions. It affects how
correct.
what I do on daily basis, how I interact with people, how I feel about
Mm-hmm,
myself. And I
mm-hmm,
think like getting to this core of what is this belief, this
mm-hmm.
concept that you're holding in your mind, which might not be true at all. What is
Absolutely.
it?
Mm-hmm.
Get to that point because without that, just moving forward and saying, I am smart, I am smart, it's never gonna help. It's just like automation and yeah,
Yeah,
I just
yeah. Like you said, it'll be a push and pull, you know? So
yeah.
that's why you can wobble around it. You'll get frustrated from it. You'll think that it's never working because it's a detox phase. We all need to go through that detox of all those conscious or unconscious implants that we've received as we were growing up, because people would just naturally say things sometimes without even noticing. And they would say, oh, well, you need to work harder. You're not working hard enough. And if that is being said a couple of times, even if it's with good intentions, the person hearing that will feel like, oh, so am I lazy or do I not have the capability? And this is what I meant by we end up creating our own definitions. So
Mhm.
sometimes if people come and tell me this is what my parents have told me, or when they're in a life scripting session and they come into realizations of like, oh, I now realize that my mom made me feel XYZ, or my dad made me think that I'm like this. Um, Initially, there can be a sense of anger, there can be a sense of frustration from it. However, after a while, we start to realize that most of the time, whether they were parents, whether they were school teachers, relatives, friends, family, they did not intentionally mean to harm us or hurt us, but we were perceiving what they were saying in that way. And when we are able to understand that, so that's our maturity level, that's our evolution. When we're able to understand that, okay, they didn't mean this. I just understood it that way. And they were trying to protect me, or they were trying to help me, or they were trying to motivate and push me, but they didn't know a more uplifting way to do it. This will naturally also help to heal and clear that out of our system because we're no longer entangled with that definition or perception that they planted in us, which leads us to when we're going to do those affirmations, it's going to be way easier, more exciting, and more uplifting.
Hmm. I love that. I think it's very true. And I worked with some of the beliefs, some of the limiting beliefs that I have in my life, and
Mm-hmm,
I've realized so many things. And before I would have resentment towards certain people that used to say something to me when I was younger or when I was a
mm-hmm,
kid, and I would have this like sense of negativity towards them, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. And when you do actually the work, you realize that these people either come from a place of love or
mm-hmm.
sometimes maybe they just are unconscious and what they
True,
say they don't even understand that how it affects
true.
the other person. So that's also another angle that we need to approach, and that
Mm-hmm.
I agree that truly helps with the healing process because you
Mm,
let go of, you realize that people are not intentionally trying to hurt you and are
yes,
not against you most of the
yes.
time. Of course, there are
Yes,
some
yes,
cases.
absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, that really would narrow it down to a very short percentage of people who've deliberately been in your life to, attack you or harm you. And imagine if you if we're able to narrow that down, we will feel way lighter. Because if a
Mhm.
person, let's say, has the thought process of I'm a victim, or any kind of victim consciousness in themselves, that is going to be very hard to heal. It's going to take some time, because they will continuously feel that they're being attacked, or they feel that life is always against them, which is why one of my favorite affirmations is life is always working out for me, or everything is always working out for me, because it starts to rewire our way of thinking that, wait a minute, why am I being so upset, angry, sad about things? I mean, who is really out there? Who is really there to, you know, attack me, or even energetically, mentally kill me? You know, that's a very
Mhm.
strong word to say that, but the mind would end up thinking that way, which is why the person would be in a fight or flight mode most of the time, and that can affect their mood swings. It can bring depression even in an extreme state.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I felt that.
Mm,
Another interesting thing that I want to unpack, which you just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, is we create our own definitions.
mhm,
And I want to understand, how do you work with helping people to change these definitions and to come to the truth, basically? Because
mm.
to when we have an idea of, I don't know, what does being successful mean, right?
Yes,
We
yes.
all have our own ideas of what that means, and it's very subjective, and sometimes it
Hmm.
can be twisted too, which can
Yes.
hurt us in a certain way.
Hmm.
How do you help people come to the realization of what the true definition of or
Mm.
meaning of something is versus
Hmm.
their own, and help them realize that their own perception of it is actually hurting them?
Right. Okay. I love that question. So I believe that listening, first of all, is the number one step. So listening to the person, defining their definition. So you see, no one really wants to be told what to do. As human
Hmm.
beings, we all always want to feel that we are right, that we are on the right path, and that we are doing the right thing. So if someone is sharing a thought process or an experience or a definition, and you end up immediately trying to make them realize that, no, you're wrong, what you're saying is rubbish, you are harming yourself, naturally the mind is created, the ego is created to defend itself. So the person will shut down, and they
Yeah.
will not listen to anything else you say, even if you're the best, the most powerful coach in the world, or you're an expert to help them heal. So it's very important that you first of all listen to what they're saying, make them listen to themselves when they're saying it. So you're telling them to describe it, to define it, and without any judgment. Because at the end of the day, when this is done professionally, you should not have your own subjective opinion. So if someone came and told me, Maria, for me, success means I need to have millions of dollars. That is what success. I can't sit around and tell them, well, that's not the point of life. You know, you need to be more spiritual. I am passing on my own definitions and my own judgments on them just because I've read a few couple of books and they've told me that's what spirituality is, or that's what enlightenment is. See, the person will end up feeling very defensive, and they will feel that they're not heard. So letting them accept what their definition is and helping them to reach that goal, that would be your first step. And now this might come off as we're manipulating them, but we're really not. We want them to understand that if that is the definition of their success, then let us help you to get there. Now, as along when we're going on that path of helping them to get there through the life scripting process, which will definitely involve some breath and some energetic work, what happens is their consciousness will naturally expand. So this is not done through verbal conversation. This is not done cognitively. To cognitively try and convince someone to change their definition is a waste of time, in my opinion, because
Hmm.
you're trying to give them examples, you're trying to tell them, but it's like this, but it's like that, this is what happened to them. It will partly be accepted by some, but then they will go on with their lives still thinking that, which is why we need to work with someone's core, with their own feelings. So if someone believed that, going back to the example, if someone believed that success means having millions of dollars, there can be a core where they have been financially unwell while they were brought up, while they felt that whatever they wanted in life was so difficult. So it's coming from a place of hurt, it's coming from a place of lack. So
Hmm.
they need to be healed through that lack without you trying to force by saying that, no, that's not the right way to move forward. So it always goes back to clearing the limitations that their experience can have. So I would be combining breath and energy work in this process. Like I said, talking about it will not help. And once we're done that, the person will start to have realizations. It's always important that the person realizes things themselves rather than you tell them what to do. And once they've come into that realization, they're like, wait a minute, I don't want to feel this way anymore. Now, every person's different. For some people, that can happen within a session, for others in 3, for others in 10, depends on the stubbornness of their mind and their ego. Some will still keep on coming over and over again saying, yes, but you need to make sure that I become a millionaire. That's why I'm here. Aren't you helping me with manifestation? You need to help me with that. And although we are helping the person manifest, create the life that they want, to create the definition that we want, we are also ensuring that they become more aware and they increase their awareness and their consciousness. And that is not linear. That is not following a textbook. It's by following the person's ability of how ready they are to be accepting of a new definition.
I like that. I think what you mentioned, helping people to become more aware, is super important because, again, we have this ideas of I want to achieve this. Like even if when we are striving for certain goals and dreams and whatever we have in our heads, sometimes these are not the things that we actually want or that we actually need in our life to be happy, fulfilled, and to live a joyful and joyous, blissful life.
Yes,
So
yes.
I think like the goal of every person should be first maybe to become a bit more aware, self-aware, and
Absolutely.
just increase the awareness and then set the goals. Because for me, I've done that. I've had this push and pull. Like as I was in my early 20s, I had big goals and dreams, and it was always like, if I don't get this, I will feel really bad about it. It was like always this struggle, and
Yeah.
the ego was pushing me to do certain things. And even when I achieved those, I still didn't feel fulfillment. Maybe for a day, too, and I
Yeah.
felt good about myself, and maybe my ego was boosted and inflated, but never the sense of calm, peace, and bliss. Never
Yes.
had that. And then
Yeah.
at a
Yeah.
certain point, when I hit like 28, I realized that all the things that I had, like all the desires and dreams and goals that I was pursuing up till now, they were first of all hurting me, and kind of I had this sense of loss of identity at that point.
Yeah.
And so that's when I realized that I'm doing something wrong. I'm setting the wrong goals from a wrong um, angle. So I'm
Yeah.
coming from a place of hurt, as you said,
Yes.
versus
Yeah.
love.
Yes, yes. And I like when you said about I lost the sense of identity, because that's what really happens when you have a definition about something, about a word, let's say whether it's success, whether it's love, whether it's about money, or health. That definition, when it's going to start to shift, you are going to lose a part of yourself. And that losing part of yourself, that means a part of your ego is going to die. And that
Mm.
is what transformation is going to be like. Now, self-awareness does not sell well. So if you told people, come here, I think I saw a meme once on social media where they're like, future tellers, fortune tellers, although I do give intuitive readings, I'm still making fun of that. Future tellers or self-awareness. And you see that people are standing in line, they just want to know the future, but no one wants to create their future or become aware of themselves. So that is why I said it's important that we do not, again, if someone came in with big goals, big dreams, and they're like, great, Maria, I heard that you can help me with this and I can really manifest it, because that's a very common term these days, manifestation, right?
Yeah.
And telling them, yes, but let me first help you become aware of yourself. They will run away. They will run
Yeah.
away. They would think that you are trying to change them. No one wants to be changed. So that internal change will happen at its right time at a certain age. Let's say you're mentioning a certain age here. It usually comes in certain slots in our lives. Between 27 to 28 is one of them. 33 is another one. 40 is another one. Now, there are so many teachings or concepts about this, like why certain numbers usually pop up. It is more of a karmic cycle, but I personally believe that we do have our own cycles as well. It doesn't have to be collective. It doesn't mean everyone at the age of 27 just suddenly becomes this self-aware individual, but it does push you. It's part of development, right? It's like when a baby is developing their brain or their body, their skills. We as human beings, we have pockets of opportunities, pockets of growth that our soul provides to us. And if we are aware of it, we won't miss that opportunity. If we did miss it, there's another chance, and then there's another chance. And if we did believe in reincarnation, then that's why we keep coming back here, because we're like, oh, we didn't get it the first time, we're going to get it the next incarnation in a different body.
Yes, this is super interesting. And the idea of those pockets of opportunities. To me, I feel like, at least what I have learned from my personal experience, is that these pockets of opportunities usually come through hardship and challenge.
Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be, like a traumatic experience. It could simply be like an internal push and pull, an internal
Yes.
crumbling of your identity, for example, or whatnot. It could also be some challenges in the external world, for example, like you're unable to find the job that you love, or you're suddenly feel like nothing makes you happy. So is that true? Is that what you have encountered as this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. For me, I've had numerous in my lifetime. It has involved loss of identity because of relocation, because I've traveled a lot, because of my parents' work, my father's work. So I've had to shift even languages. Then I've had, as many would do, heartbreaks through love, by understanding that, oh, I'm not enough, or I'm not the right person, and why does this person not love me? And then from that, I would say the most recent would have been about 8 years ago, when I lost my mom, and then 6 months later I lost my father, being an only child. So death does do that. So that's one of the biggest extremes. I hope and pray no one goes through that, but it does change you. It does upgrade you. You have no choice but either to drown in grief and deteriorate as you go along, and indirectly, or you can rise above that. And I would have to say I was blessed enough to know some level of spiritual practices, some level of the idea of birth and rebirth, and soul teachings and karmic teachings, which did help me. It was still difficult. It took me about 3 years, I would have to say, but it did take me to another level of awareness, another level of understanding, and a new identity was created afterwards. But unfortunately, as human beings, we do tend to change when it really hits us hard. We're not used to changing when to the better, when things are moving smoothly, because we can be lazy and we can think that, oh, we don't want to put in the work. We just want things to come to us rather than us putting any effort.
So it seems like life is kind of being a teacher for us, or maybe a
Yeah.
parent in
Yeah.
this case, where they deprive you of something in order for you to get something bigger, which you, in that moment, you absolutely are unable to see, obviously.
True.
Like you cannot process the idea of losing someone, or the hardship or challenge as something good for you. That's good for you. But if you think about it, really, it's like when a kid wants a candy, for example, and or a junk food, and instead you're like, well, no, broccoli is better for you, and you deprive
Yeah.
them of the good thing, and they're like,
Yeah.
I don't understand why she hates me, right? Like
Yes, 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 absolutely. And later on. So that's our maturity, right? We all have to go through that maturity level to then realize. I would
yeah.
say the sooner we can realize, the better. It doesn't mean that the majority of us will be able to understand it immediately, but the sooner, the better, which is why we have modalities, healing techniques, meditation, spiritual practices to help us.
So we did a session yesterday together
Mm-hmm.
before
Mm-hmm.
prior to this, and I just want to go through this experience a little bit
Mm-hmm.
together. So first of all, we went kind of on a it was a, to me it seemed like a meditation
Mm-hmm.
journey. right?
Mm-hmm.
Where
Yeah.
I was kind of very relaxed, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
although I had some thoughts in my head. It wasn't like I was completely didn't have any thoughts. I still had some thoughts
True.
that would pop up, but I was aware of them.
Yeah.
But I had sense of relaxation and
Mm-hmm.
also sense of tingling in my hands, in my
Mm-hmm.
feet, which is
Mm-hmm.
usually what happens when you're focusing on your body. Let's say if you're doing a
Yeah.
body, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so to me, it seemed very much like just a meditation
Mm-hmm.
with an interesting journey that I'm going through. Can you
Right.
talk a little bit about this
Mm-hmm.
experience of
Yeah.
maybe how we went about this journey?
Yeah, sure. So meditation is the most common word I get when we're doing these sessions. And the reason why it does feel and look like a meditation is because we are not aiming for any dramatic experiences in the session. Now, I do know that there are different techniques and different modalities that can really bring you this physiological sensations or these extreme thoughts that can come in. I mean, I do have those type of sessions with some clients, but I would say they are 1 out of 10, and that would be in a case where someone has deep suppressions that they have not even tackled anything, and that is why that simple experience that you had would be incredibly unbearable for them, or it would be very painful for them. So yes, it does feel like a meditation because what I'm doing is I'm verbalizing what I'm doing to the energy. So we are used to understanding that when someone is speaking, it's either taking someone on a hypnotherapy journey
Mhm.
or giving a guided meditation. This is the most common two things that we know. However, it's very rare to hear that someone is doing energetic work on you, because we know that energy work usually is done through the hands. So people send energy, they help you visualize that energy, and people have their eyes closed, there is silence, and they're in that feeling depending on their sensitivity level. So in life scripting, everything is out in the open. Everything is described and explained of the journey, because this is naturally also influencing the subconscious mind.
Mhm.
So, and when people tell me, well, then maybe it's a hypnotherapy session, but it does
Mm.
not follow any of the hypnotherapy protocols. And it does not take ages for you to dive into the subconscious. That whole first experience that we're taking you to a higher frequency, or what I would call it, the Akashic records, the terminology of connecting to the soul, that is literally 2 minutes long. So in that 2 minutes where I'm describing, focusing on the heart and letting golden energy in, it's all specifically done for a purpose, because we're bringing in a certain light. We want to create protection. We want the mind to go into a deep relaxation, but still they can have thoughts that will not affect them. And then once the breathing starts to take place, because we're not forcing again the breathing, or it's not a controlled breathing mechanism, then the person will go on their journey very uniquely. So if you did another session, you will not necessarily have the same experience. And that's again what I like about it, because in that other experience, the topic will be different. What you would be clearing would be different for sure. And also your breathing mechanism will be different. So you might end up having a very rapid breathing experience, or you might go even more deeper in your breath. You might end up having your whole body tingle rather than only the hands or the feet. So it's very much based on, from my experience, it's based on the topic. It's based on the person's receptivity, of how open and receptive they are for the experience. And then also, I would say this is where we cannot pinpoint, is the person's karmic journey. Like, how ready are they to experience a certain thing? And as you remember, you had some certain thoughts, you had certain experiences. Suddenly, I remember you telling me that you kind of already knew what I was going to say. Like, you would have a vision of it, or you would have the thought of it, and then afterwards I would say it to you. And this is where I mentioned where it's fascinating for me that how time gets distorted in this experience, where
Mhm.
past, present, now, it's all just mixed up, and people are really being able to transcend what is going on. And finally, I always tell everyone that as gentle as the session might feel, we always need to see what's going to happen afterwards, because afterwards is the real deal. You could
Mhm.
have the most gentlest, most exciting, or most relaxing experience. But because we are clearing things out of your system, you will still have to deal with it in your day-to-day life, which means if we cleared, let's say, honestly, I don't remember what we cleared because I go into a trance-like state. But let's say if we cleared anger from someone, right? We're deactivating anger. And they're like, oh, that was very relaxing. That was great. And that doesn't mean the person is void of anger now. The
Yeah.
following days, life is going to bring up certain situations for them to really anchor, either to be angry or not, to really get rid of that pattern or not. So I always say, give me an answer after 72 hours. And then the next one, give me within a week, and then within 2 weeks. And because we did manifestation as well, we always need to see how much of this and how fast is this actually playing out, which sometimes does not make sense of how fast it can be.
I will record back for sure of
Yeah.
what happens next. But
Yeah.
to me, I think it made a lot of sense because I don't necessarily like the idea of hypnotherapy. I
Mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm,
to be conscious of what's
mm-hmm,
happening. I like
mm-hmm.
to be a participant of how I'm clearing my negative beliefs, limiting
Mm-hmm.
beliefs. To me,
Mm-hmm.
it's very important that these things happen consciously.
Yeah.
Whereas when it's hypnotherapy, you're basically
Mm-hmm.
going through something and basically someone unconsciously derives something out of you, right?
Mm,
So
mm, mm.
in this case, I very much think that this idea of going on a journey and meditation, breathing and relaxing was super conducive to me just becoming this letting go of things and becoming relaxed
Mm-hmm.
and open. And
Mm-hmm.
then that's when I can also feel like I can do the work on myself as well.
Yes.
Even if,
Yeah.
let's say, you're not doing the guided meditation, guided work, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing it alone, this
Yes.
beforehand, like being relaxed is super important for me.
Absolutely, because your fight and flight is gone, your cortisol level is relaxed,
Yeah.
you can have more clarity, your mind is more focused, and you're not in that fearful or anxious state. Not that we are continuously, but that relaxation that we need will help us to go into a deeper brainwave experience, whether it's a theta brainwave or a delta brainwave. We are getting out of that cognitive process. And that is more than enough for us to tackle the subconscious mind.
That I completely understand and I completely
Mm,
like realize and accept that.
mm, mm,
One thing that I mentioned also, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago is I actually did hear my dad's voice calling me. He's
mhm,
like
mhm. Yeah.
saying my name specifically, not in an angry way, but like out loud. And I heard
Mhm.
that. And then you started saying, okay, so now we're clearing the paternal side, etc. I was like, shit, what's happening? So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah,
an experience.
that's the spiritual aspect of it. And why am I using the word spiritual is because it's beyond textbook, it's beyond what we are logically processing. It's about what we are inviting. That is where we're working with the soul, because the soul is uh, unlimited, it is vast. And when you're tackling deep soul related, whether they're issues or you want to create or manifest, then you're being very open to other souls to be present as well in the session.
Mhm.
And they can participate, they can help, they can heal, they can give you messages, which is why one of the principles of life scripting is always intuition. So naturally, even if people came for, let's say, anxiety, or they came for manifesting a certain topic, always there is going to be an element that their intuition is going to start to enhance, and they're going
Mhm.
to feel more open, more connected, and more aligned. So we didn't have the intention for you to be claircognizant. Claircognizant is when you can, sorry, understand, or clairaudient, but you
Mhm.
naturally were able to hear it in that trance-like state. So this means there is the potential more so for you to be even more intuitive as you go along on your journey.
Interesting. I love that.
Mm.
So what what are some other techniques that you're offering your clients?
Mm.
Basically, they come to you for life scripting sessions, for
Mhm, mhm,
the
mhm.
work on
Yes.
manifestation, and what
Yeah.
else?
So, other than the healing and manifestation aspect, I do intuitive readings. So, the intuitive readings is where I give them guidance. I channel what they need to know about their life purpose, their learnings, their karmic patterns. And the most common or famous one that people usually come to is the yearly readings or the month by month readings, where they want to know what to expect, what to work towards every single month. So I provide for free the Akashic Records horoscope, which is something I came up with in 2022. So I've always loved astrology. I've been interested in it, but I never properly studied it. So I'm not properly familiar with the houses, with all the planets and how they are in retrograde or in alignment. I do have a very basic understanding of them. So I got this message one day when I was meditating that instead of just telling people what is going to come about based on their name or based on their energy, you can also tap into their horoscope. And by connecting to their Western horoscope specifically, their zodiac sign, you're able to get some information for them. So I started creating these 1 minute videos, which are on TikTok, which are on my YouTube channel, and also on my Instagram. And what I would do is I would press record and I would immediately channel what Aries is going to go through, let's say in a certain month. And this went on for a while, for a year, until I got this opportunity to write for Cosmopolitan Middle East, where I would be writing every month the monthly horoscope, basically. But I had to emphasize that I'm not an astrologer. I respect astrologers and their whole process of how they read charts and all that. So basically, I still do offer that now on Cosmopolitan and on my page for free so that people can check every single month what to expect. But what I usually advise them, if they really want to get a bigger picture, still for free, they need to read their sun sign, so the day that they're born. They also need to check what their moon sign is and what their ascending sign is. If they can find these three, which there are so many online calculators at the moment, they can read all those three signs and they can get a holistic idea of what their month holds for them. And it's been quite an interesting journey to get that feedback and how people look forward to it. And if they want their own personalized one, they just book an online recording, not a reading, as in we're not online. They just book a recording and they receive about 10 to 15-minute recording of what to expect every single week of the month based on their horoscope, their Akashic horoscope. So that's the intuitive side where I'm just helping people to better understand themselves, to be forewarned of certain things so that they can change and work towards their goals.
Amazing.
Mm.
I know we're on time, but I have a couple more questions for you.
Go
I
ahead.
know you've
Yeah.
been to Dubai and you've
Hmm.
moved there
Yeah.
recently or maybe a few years ago.
Yeah. So I moved in 2014 in Dubai.
2014, right. And
Mm.
so I know a lot of people are moving to Dubai right now. A lot of
Hmm.
entrepreneurs are going there and building their careers there.
Hmm.
How conducive is Dubai to your specific work?
So it's been booming a lot in the last, I would say, 6, 7 years. There are so many holistic healing centers. People are highly interested in well-being and wellness, not only from a mental perspective, but from a body. That means a lot of gyms and yoga classes, Pilates classes. So I would say Dubai has become one of those hubs for personal transformation and self-development. And I've also heard that there are so many events happening with different speakers coming from all over the world. Um, I am quite impressed, and it is, of course, it's working in my favor, but I believe it is a place that is highly needed for one specific reason. Since most of us are expats here, and we don't have our families next to us, it can become a lonely place. It can become a place of very transactional in a
Mhm.
sense that people will probably befriend you because there is an end goal to it and there
Mm.
is a material aspect to it. So people are needing to go more inwards, to find that peace, to feel that they can connect to a community, that there is no um, financial transaction or any kind of showing off, let's say, which is why I love the community that we have here. And it keeps on growing every year. And you can see that everyone who is part of the life scripting group, whether they've studied it or not, they can be themselves. They can feel that they are in a group of loving, trustworthy individuals where they can be doing any type of career path, but they're not being judged, and they can go deeper within themselves. So I would say it is really a good place nowadays. We'll see how it will be in the next 5 to 10 years, but it's very much of a place of self-development.
Interesting. Thank you
Mm.
so much, Maria. This was a very interesting conversation for me,
Thank
and I'm
you.
sure people will learn quite a bit about life scripting itself with
Yeah.
this.
Thank you so much for having me.